Hello, I'm Ciara Daly, and this is Unite and Conquer, a series exploring the ways the food and drink industry can positively impact people, planet, and profit. I am delighted to be joined today by Jack Rogers, Director of Newgrange Gold. Newgrange Gold is a Meath based business who produce a range of cold pressed Irish rapeseed oils, as well as the first ever Irish Wild Flax oil. Founded in 2010 by Jack's father, John Rogers, the Newgrange Gold production facility is housed on the Rogers family farm, which overlooks the historic and beautiful Boyne Valley. Jack took over the reins from his father in 2012, having already been quite heavily involved in the business up until then. Over the last 13 years, Newgrange Gold have won numerous accolades for their cold pressed oils at both the prestigious Blosna Heron Awards and Great Taste Awards. Newgrange Gold have also been awarded gold membership by Origin Green for their commitments to protecting biodiversity in the local region, as well as a host of other sustainability efforts. Outside of his work with Newgrange Gold, Jack is also a founding member of the Boyne Rivers Trust, an organisation with the aim of securing the value of the River Boyne as a wild, healthy, and natural river, which is just one other example of the many reasons I am very proud to call Jack and the team at Newgrange Gold a Conquer Digital client. So, Jack, you are the very first producer to join me in conversation for Unite and Conquer. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to having others hear what you have to say because you are always really interesting to chat to. So thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, Ciara. Thank you. I feel very privileged. Thank you
Ah,
for having
good.
us on.
Well, you're very kind. So, Jack, you and your father, John Rogers, are what I suppose you could call the head honchos of Newgrange Gold. Now, interestingly, you both actually have backgrounds in law, with your father, of course, serving as Attorney General in the 80s for anyone out there who thinks the name sounded familiar. But what I'd love to hear about is how that switch from a career in the courts to setting up and running a business in the food industry came about. I mean, in your own personal case, had it always been a vocation, or where did your interest in the area of food production stem from?
Well, I did ag science in UCD, so I kind of grew up between Slane and Dublin,
Hmm.
and found just the countryside fascinating and the whole
Yeah.
idea of food production fascinating. So I ended up doing ag science in UCD, and then following that went on and did the bar. And when the opportunity, Dad started the business around 2010, and I kind of would have always been talking to him during that period. So in 2013, 2012, 2013, when the opportunity came up to come down and start running the business, I jumped on it.
Mm.
And I've always been fascinated. Like, I would have had a lot of friends in food science, and I would have always been talking to them about, processes and how, different innovations and things like that are happening. So it's something I've always found fascinating. I still do to this day, like the evolution of food production. I think we're probably in a really interesting time now because there's so much new innovation, but also serious, what I would say, transformations in terms of how food is being produced.
Amazing. One of my kind of favorite things, I suppose, about working with Newgrange Gold is that when you peer behind that beautifully designed label, if anyone has seen the bottles, you'll know what I mean. There's actually just there's so many great things that are going on within the business itself. Even just chatting to you there, you can see kind of a glimpse of your interest in what you do and like your passion for it. So there's just so much more than, you'll ever be able to meet the eye with kind of just from looking at the product. But one of the things that's really important at Conquer Digital is that we make like a conscious effort to work with food and drink businesses who really care about their impact on both their local community and environment. And Newgrange Gold are most definitely a business that embodies this. I mean, you guys go to huge efforts to support both biodiversity in your local area, but also, you're a big champion of local employment, supporting local employment and giving back to the local community. Would you be able to give me an insight into some of those efforts that I've touched on there?
Yeah. So a lot of it stems from my own personal interest, and that has grown over the last 10 years in biodiversity and those areas, but also the whole social aspect
Yeah.
has come along with that as a part of. I suppose when we started Origin Green, I was a bit miffed by exactly what it is and
Yeah.
what whether a small business like us could actually achieve it. But after being the person who's done the plan over the last kind of 6, 7, 8 years, and I've realized how much I can use it to do things that I want to do in terms of things that are good. I've kind of come to enjoy it, and it's almost an excuse then to do things such as like getting soccer jerseys for Ross and Rovers, our local club here, or this year we sponsored the one of the projects that the school across the river are doing, one of the primary schools. So that they're kind of very social things that you can do. But then I've also made the Rivers Trust a kind of a key part of it, to be able to try and find a way that we can improve the river ecosystem, how people engage with it, and also improve its what, like we're aiming for nutrient neutrality within the catchment, and that's a fairly big thing to try and achieve. It's kind of something that we needs a seismic shift. So it's a very small part of our business, but it's something that I've kind of really taken on, and the guys here have really taken it on as well. Like where we can, we try and have everything as recyclable as possible. And it's very hard to do that in a lot of instances, especially when you're smaller, because you are in some respects a taker of what's on the market, and until the bigger players start to use more environmentally friendly things, they don't kind of seep down to us.
Yeah. You spoke kind of when we first kind of kicked off the conversation just about your interest in like innovations within the industry, and kind of, I suppose, farming would be a big part of what you guys do. I know that you guys, you exclusively use rapeseed that's grown in the local area to produce the oils. Who are the people that are growing the crops for you guys, and what kind of what's the word? What kind of passion for agriculture, I suppose, do you share with them?
So where possible, we have been trying to buy off the Hobson family in Warrenstown, and that's because one, they're great to deal with, and two, they've got a really good mindset around how to treat their soil and how to manage it for improving it to capture carbon and to increase its nutrient availability, and also how that means they reduce inputs like pesticides and herbicides, etc. So that's what I've been trying to do over the last number of years. It's not always been possible, particularly with the way that things since the Ukrainian war have caused things to fluctuate. But from that, then I've always sourced it from the Boyne Valley. But going forward, I'm hoping that the Hobsons will be our main source going forward. And in terms of agriculture as a whole, I think that the whole regenerative area is something that's becoming really exciting, and I think a lot of farmers are starting to embrace that, because they obviously see that they need to reduce their inputs in terms of pesticides, fertilizers, all that kind of stuff. And again, the Ukraine war has kind of brought that home very quickly to roost, because fertilizer is effectively fuel. It's created from fuel, from gas, and therefore the price of it has gone crazy. So, we're living through a very unique time in that there's innovations within the industry and of the agricultural industry, which is going to change the way food is produced, and it's exciting. There are other things on the horizon you can see, like with microbial fermented foods and things like that. So there's going to be I think in the next 5-10 years, there's going to be really interesting things happening in terms of how food is produced. And that's going to put pressure on agriculture, but it's also going to have to make it think a bit different,
Yeah. And it can also, there's great positives that can come from that. I mean, because of the quality of product, the quality of seed that you guys use, there's a reason why you've been awarded all of these accolades. The oils are really, really high quality, and they taste great, and they, have amazing nutritional benefits. So if kind of that's adopted across the board, that just can only improve, our food across the board as well, I suppose,
Yeah,
is the easiest way of
yeah.
putting it. Um, One thing that I love about Newgrange Gold, like, you're very passionate. You've set up the Boyne Rivers Trust. It's not just because you were idle and you needed something to do. It's obviously something that is kind of quite close to your heart and that you are passionate about. And one of the things that I love about Newgrange Gold is just kind of learning about all of the different small little initiatives that you guys have taken, like, the installation of owl and bird boxes through your land. And I think you were telling me about how that kind of, small initiatives like that. You have bee hive on the apiary, isn't that what it's called?
Yeah.
On the farm.
Yeah.
All of these kind of local things. Like, how have they have you seen an impact or a change or an increase, I'm going to nod to, on the on the farm or in the local area itself? Have you seen kind of a knock-on effect of these small initiatives? How have you seen any results come from them?
Yeah. So, just to put a bit of context for people, we live literally on the valley, looking over the River Boyne, and we're right on the edge of a special area conservation and a special protection area. So they're part of the Birds Directive and the Habitats Directive. So they're designated and protected sites, and we would have had a lot of cattle here over the years, and that got reduced when we started getting into Newgrange Gold. And the knock-on effect of that was that things kind of just, nature kind of took over.
Yeah.
So I'd love to say that I did lots of really exciting things, but
Nature
nature,
did it.
yeah, well, if you give it the space, that's the one thing I really realized. It kind of gets on with it itself and fixes the things that we've kind of,
Yeah.
the imbalances that we've created. But on the back of that, then again, my interest kind of got into, well, how, if you've got these special areas of conservation, a lot of people might consider that a negative, and I kind of, well, there must be a way of being able to manage this land in a way that's one that has some sort of, gives you value, but also gives back value to nature. And so we got it. Last year or the year before, I went into a thing called the Farm Plan with the National Parks and Wildlife Service. So we've put in a scrape in the wetlands at the bottom for wading birds to try and encourage young wading birds, because it's obviously it's SPA, so it's protection for birds. We've fenced off all the river and the cover. I'm currently digging out giant hogweed from the cover as an invasive species, which is giving me all sorts of nicks and scratches. And yeah, and we've put in L boxes and obviously the apiary. But the other thing that I've noticed is that, like, when I'm clearing the hogweed out of the cover, the number of native bee species, what I described as the solitary bees.
Mm-hmm.
I remember last year, after I had COVID, March last year, I was in the cover clearing, digging out the hogweed, and it was like there was a helicopter overhead.
Yeah.
Because the intensity of the buzzing from these natural bees. So really, the fact that a lot of this has gone wild and there's a lot of flower and food means that they are thriving.
Yeah.
So, like, I see it, and even we had the ranger up recently, and we had on the same day we had a peregrine falcon over the house. We had a kestrel and 2 or 3 buzzards. So when you start to see that level of apex species, there's something going right in the area. So and we also put in a flower on one of the fields where we grew camelina last year. We had to put in a 12-meter wide flower strip. So that's twice yearly. We'll have to then resow it next year. But again, that's, you walk through it during the summer and it's on fire with wildlife,
Yeah.
Just the buzz, and actually getting chased by bees is a regular thing around here.
The social media manager, me, for your account, is thinking, why is he not sending me this content?
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, Ciara.
No, that is so beautiful to see, or like to hear, because I think definitely over the last couple of years, we've kind of all realized how much, kind of, without getting too cringe about it, there is just so much beauty that can be found when you just look outside into the outdoors and kind of just see what's going on. And that just sounds like something like, it shouldn't sound something that is so foreign to us, because it's obviously what natively was here, but it's brilliant to see it coming back where you were.
Well, it's
Go on.
yeah, it's within the whole of the Boyne Valley. The Boyne Valley is like
Yeah.
a little ribbon of hope,
Yeah.
between Dublin and everything else. I think so.
Yeah. That's beautiful to hear. Okay, so something I suppose that I always say, which I always think that food symbolizes connection, and I mean, there you've just spoken inadvertently about kind of the connection you have found to nature through food. So I just think that, Newgrange Gold is a brilliant example of how food can kind of foster that connection for us, whether it be to people or be to nature or be to, whatever it is. But Newgrange Gold is very clearly really embedded in your local area and your community. And obviously, you've just described there the great amount of work and effort that you have to go into to actually developing these projects and kind of some of the collaborations that have come about. Would you mind sharing some of the challenges you faced in bringing them to life, and maybe any advice you would have for other business owners who want to follow in your footsteps?
There's a lot of them. How long do we have?
Go with
Probably
3.
Yeah, probably. Over the last number of years, probably myself has been one of the biggest challenges. Because your own psychological place can often be the thing that fights against you the hardest.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get beyond that. The second would probably be trying to do too much yourself and realizing your own limitations. That's easier said than done, because obviously having money to employ people to do things and getting people who are as engaged and as willing as maybe you are is hard, and I'm really lucky here. We've like 4 or 5 great people who just adore working here, and I wouldn't say walk over hot coals, but not far off it. And they put up with a lot of my head case stuff as well. They have to sometimes kind of bring me back into line.
Nod. Nod to make nowhere.
The third, off the top of my head, is probably, and this is such a cliche, but don't sweat the small stuff. And I used to get so caught up in small things, and actually being able to let go of something and walk away from it often is a more healthy way of managing something. And usually things come back around.
Yeah.
In a way that works,
Yeah. What is kind of, thank you, by the way, because it can be very tempting to kind of give big, brave answers, but they are just actually very honest answers. And I think that people will really appreciate that. So thank you for that. What's next down the line for Newgrange Gold? Where are you going next? What are you doing?
At the moment, I've been working on MPD and kind of closing in on that. And I don't want to get into it in a serious way, but I have some new labels done up, and I'm hoping to launch some health orientated products.
Yeah. As always, people will know that the MPD is a long, long process.
Yeah. Well, we like, and again, that's been a real learning curve for me, and something I've really enjoyed is, doing the qualitative and quantitative. So again, with Borbia, we did a lot of work, and Meath Leo provided me with supports to do some stuff with Lorraine Allen from Brand Innovation Ireland. And it's been really interesting. And now I'm looking forward to trying to bring something to life in the next couple of months and, giving it a shot. It's just, you have to get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So watch this space. And of course, you have a brilliant range of products that are already available. So you can find Newgrange Gold oils available in most leading supermarkets, and you'll find it in independent stockists nationwide. And you can also find the full range of oils available to order through the website newgrangegold.ie, and you've got free shipping for orders over €50. Gotta get your marketing plug in there, or I'll get fired, don't I? So Jack, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a really nice insight, and again, just a brilliant kind of display of how much there is actually involved in Newgrange Gold, and how, the brilliant work that you guys do. I think you're a brilliant example, and I really look forward to seeing, what's going to come for the next 10, 13, 20 years for Newgrange Gold.
Thanks, Ciara. It's been a pleasure to be talking to you, and thanks for everything that Conquer have done.
Oh, you're
in terms of our marketing, because it's been brilliant.
Perfect. I'll send that check to you in the post. Thanks, Jack.